Okay, I thought I was going to come here and I was going to teach agencies how to do this, but maybe I'll teach your brands how to do it. And then you might want to collaborate with an agency on this. There's a huge opportunity here, and I'll get into that in a minute. I had to post this 6 years ago. I was the MC for Aaron at the Digimarcon conference on the cruise. And we did it was 2 days, I think, on the cruise, and then we partied for 5 days. So whatever hangover you had last night, multiply that times 5. Oh my God, it was a lot of fun. And I was happy to hear him get invited back. We haven't seen each other in quite a while. So I've been an independent consultant for a long time. I was an senior executive for a company that built truly the first broadband television platform. We had clients all over the world. We broadcast Indy 500 to 88 countries around the world before anybody could do it on that scale. So I've been involved with media on the internet and production side through my partner who has a video production company. I now have 2 jobs. One is with the International Sustainable Resilience Center. I'm a chief content officer, and I'm also editor-in-chief of Resilience Newswatch, which is our media site for this brand. This is a nonprofit, and I'm going to take a deep dive into that and show you what we're doing with that. I'm also the co-founder of Indie Films Foundation because I've partnered with my video production friend. So these are my 2 jobs, which my dream jobs, which I'll do until I get to heaven. And we're doing this with both of them, actually. I've written a lot of books over the years, and I have a present for you. I have a thumb drive here that has all 3 of these books on it and also a copy of this presentation. Media brand marketing is literally what I'm going to be talking about today. The content marketing revolution, I was doing workshops at the local chamber for small businesses. So that's a great book to explain all this stuff to laymen, which is, if you're an agency, you can give it to your clients. It's also great for CEOs and presidents of companies because they don't know anything about marketing, right? So you can educate them, use it to educate them about everything. And the third one is actually a 300-page textbook, which is overwhelming, but I just threw it in there. You're welcome to use them, copy them, share them. They're yours. Okay, so these are some of the projects I'm involved in. I'm not going to dwell on that, but I spend half my time working on either. Also do television shows, and because we're partnered with Channel 21, which is an over-the-air antenna station. Just out of curiosity, does anybody get that antenna? Have antenna TV? Well, amazingly, with antennas from Beaumont to College Station, there's a reach of 6 million people, and it's expanding even as I speak. Gary Parker is my partner in the Indie Films Foundation. He's done everything you can do in front or behind the camera. He started out at Channel 13 as a program director over 40 years ago. Started his own production company. He's done 7 independent documentaries that have all won Telly Awards. And he's been either the director of photography, or co-producer on over 20 independent films. And you probably haven't seen any of these, but because they don't get theatrical distribution, but you may recognize some of the stars. So I like to brag on him because he's down to 1 client. He's trying to switch gears and just do the foundation. But his client is Chevron, so he still works for Chevron on contract. And he can't wait to quit. All right, so this is what we're going to talk about. I'm not going to read that. You can read it. But I am going to touch on all these different aspects, and I'm going to try to talk to you from the point of view of a producer, because that's the view you need to take when you're talking about doing a media brand, because it's non-promotional content. It's not marketing content. So you have to take off your marketing hat and put on your producer hat if you're doing video, or your editor-in-chief if you're doing print, and you have to become a media company. But you're doing this for your brand or an agency, you're doing it for a client. So this is straight from the book. Media brand marketing is simply the distribution of non-promotional content directly through a company-owned media portal. And that's key. Most of your content you do, all your advertising content is going out over some other portal, right? Well, you own this because you built it. It's your branded portal. And that changes everything. It's an extension of your brand into a media brand, which becomes a trusted source of information for your target market. Now think about that. To be a trusted source of information for your target market, suddenly you've got an inside straight to all the prospects you're trying to drive into your marketing system. So I said we're doing this for Indie Films Foundation. So we have two sites. We have a site for the school, and then our site for the foundation itself is we're incorporating some of these tools, and I'll show you a little bit of that. But I'm primarily going to show you what we're doing with ISRC because it's more advanced. We've literally just launched it. I built the site in April, and we loaded it up with content, which we've been producing for 6 months. And we're just now literally launching it. But in any case, it comes down to this idea of actually owning the audience, having direct connection and contact to them, so that if you get them in your automated marketing system, or if they subscribe, you can market directly to them, and that's worth a small fortune. You probably all know about the Furrow. I'm just curious, raise your hands if you know the Furrow. No? Okay. So this is the first, arguably one of the first, if not the first media brand. John Deere in 1895 could not reach the farmers because there wasn't anything out there. They couldn't get ads in every newspaper in these little towns, and probably didn't read them back then anyway. So they came up with a great idea. They produced their own magazine and they mailed it to the farmers. And it's a real magazine filled with real articles by subject matter experts and journalists, professional journalists, about things that the farmers need to know about agriculture and all that stuff. Well, they love it. They ate it up. So where do the ads go? Anywhere they want them. They own the entire magazine, and you can read this online. It's available online. That's another advantage of this. You don't have any competitors advertising. You own the magazine, and you can put the ads anywhere you want. Now, I'm going to contrast that with something. This is another product. This is done by Chevrolet. It's called New Roads. It pretends to be a magazine, but it's not. It's all advertorial. Everything in it is advertorial, but they kind of trick you. This is an article about, came out in 2016. I actually showed this slide at the cruise. It's an article about a smart home, right? And you're cool, you get sucked into it. No, it's just a setup to talk about OnStar. The whole magazine is like that. This looks like a real article. No, it's just about their cars. And the articles are nothing but a paragraph or two written by a copy person that working for the agency producing it. That's not a media brand. I'm not saying that's not a great thing to do, but here's the difference. With a media brand, you're going to have a relationship that's continuous with your audience. The user is going to be highly engaged with the content. They're genuinely interested in it. They're going to be highly qualified prospects, and probably interconnected to each other through LinkedIn or other means, and tremendous brand awareness. And an advertiser is the exact opposite of that. So the numbers speak for themselves. The Furrow has today over 1.5 million subscribers worldwide. As far as I know, New Roads has none. The only way you see this if you get it mailed to you. All right. So what's the overall goal of building a media site for a brand? Very simple. To drive customer. You want acquisition, sales, engagements, and transactions. You're doing this to achieve a marketing goal, but you're not being a marketing person when you create the content. That's the only difference, right? So at the end of the day, the value of an own audience, you can build a larger prospect base, a much larger prospect base. You can build relationships with prospects before they become customers. You can nurture relationships with content, build and measure engagement, drive more prospects into your sales funnel, educate and inform your prospects about things they really care about. And that helps build your brand as a trusted brand, right? As a go-to source for real valuable information. And you can also talk to them about issues that are important to you. So I have to ask you, if you have a company, why would you not want to do this? Well, I kind of already know the answer. It's a lot of trouble. So I'm going to try to give you some insights in how you can make this easier on yourself. And if you're an agency, sell it to a brand. All right. So at the end of the day, you definitely want whatever kind of marketing system you have, whatever automated marketing tools you use, you want to drive the traffic into that system, right? You just have to be careful how you do it. So if you look here, these are traditional marketing conversions, right? To a marketing qualified lead, to a sales qualified lead, to a customer, right? They're all there, right? Now this, you have the same thing with your media site, right? Because you're building audience. You're not building customers yet, you're building audience. So you need to have marketing qualified leads for the content because you're advertising the content, promoting it. And then you convert them to audience, and then you drive them into the lead generation process. And these sets of conversions fit together seamlessly. There they are. And once you get it set up, it just keeps going. So think about all the opportunities you have to engage them and connect to your automated marketing system. Traditionally, if you read about content marketing, they go, well, get a really good piece of content and then offer it so they download it and you capture their name, right? And you get a lead, right? Well, this is that same approach fundamentally. You're just putting the whole process on steroids when you build a media brand site. And I'll show you in a minute. So I want to begin here, and I'm going to get a dry throat if I don't drink some water. Sorry. If you're watching, I'm just taking a water break. Pardon me. Okay, thank you. I'm starting with some traditional big media brands that you'll know and recognize. 3 examples here. The first one is USA Today. It's a real media site. It's a newspaper. Content changes every day because it's a newspaper. But, you know, if you just step back and look at this, to me, it looks really messy. I don't like it. It's, you know, the font sizes are all over the place. The column widths change. It's like you can't tell for sure what is an ad and what isn't an ad. And I'm sure you've all been tricked into clicking on something that you thought was an article and it turned into be an ad. So there's a lot of bad practices out there in our industry, aren't there, as a marketing person? And I always preach against doing those things. So I'm not impressed with USA Today as an example of a good media site. CNN, and this is completely apolitical, I don't care whether you like it or not, but their website is very well done. It's very clean. You can see right away that they have traditional newspaper approach to big fonts for the headlines and smaller fonts for sub-headlines, and then of course consistent size for everything else in the print. But what I really want to show you is the navigation. If you have a lot of content, navigation becomes a major issue. Now, you may not have a lot of content, but if you do, you need to address it. So if you look here, it's very simple. They have 3 main categories, 3 big buckets: US, world, politics, and business. Very simple. It's easy to go into. Anybody can. It's very intuitive, right? You don't even have to think about it. And their more section drops right down, all the other categories you would expect. This one I like even better. This is Curiosity Stream. If you don't know, the president of Discovery Channel created this, and it's full of, I just love it. I watch it constantly. Nothing but thousands and thousands of some of the best documentary films you've ever seen, in contrast to the crap on Discovery Channel. That's why I'm convinced he felt guilty. But this is a great site, but it has so much content. How would you ever find it, right? So they have a very simple method. Primarily, you go through the browse feature and you click on that, and you have, again, intuitive categories, what you would expect: science, history, technology. And so that's the trick to doing this. You have a lot of content, design an intuitive, logical system that's anybody that can follow. And what's even better, they have this sub-menu list. So if you do the math, you have about 8 or 10 subcategories, which again are very obvious and intuitive for each one of these main categories. So you've got a total of about 80 categories, which really cuts the problem of finding stuff down to a manageable process. And I do it all the time. It works great. So that's an important thing to remember how to do. The one exception is if you have just like a blog with 1 page of content and it's dynamically updated, so the latest blog is always on top, you don't have to worry about the navigation so much. But if you take the best practices I'm about to show you and apply them, you might discover that you're creating a lot more content than you thought you would. So let me start with Resilience Newswatch and show you how we do it. Let me pull up the menu here. I'm not going to read these off because I'm going to actually show you what we're doing on each page. So we're doing something significant on each one of these pages. So we have one section here, which is the member section, and I'll explain how that works because it adds a lot of extra value. On the home page, very simple. We don't need a menu to navigate this. We have a blogs just like I was describing. It's updated dynamically, so the latest is on top, and then we have interviews below that, video interviews, and I'll show you some of those. As we're going to have so much content in this, I am going to have to create a navigation system because some of this content has a long shelf life and is very valuable, just like a documentary film, and I want people to find it. So we will end up creating something like what I just showed you with CuriosityStream. Also, it's a good idea if you can mix short and long-term shelf life. Just remember, in a blogging system, it's always going to push the latest thing to the beginning and everything else goes to the bottom. So again, the trick to letting people find that is navigation. This is a page, we call it latest news, and I actually have a couple. I'm testing these out. I actually have 3 pages I'm testing this with. So we promote this primarily through our subject matter experts and thought leaders pushing this out in LinkedIn because this is all professional network. And they're complaining about me giving them too many things to post in LinkedIn. So I said, okay, 2 or 3 times a week's too much. Okay, I didn't think it was. But so I created this page so they could just post it once and post everything. Because we got about 3 things we're trying to do a week. But they're complaining about that. So this is a big challenge. If you're a business and you talk your company into doing this, essentially you have to build a team to run this. It doesn't have to be big. Depending on the size of the company and the scale of the site, you might be able to have 1 or 2 employees working part-time on it. But you're going to be interviewing subject matter experts either inside the business or that are referred to you, or you'll be publishing blogs. In any case, you're going to have to get, in most cases, some of the other key employees in the business pushing this out through LinkedIn. So again, it's a herding the cat thing. But if you sit down with them and explain the value of it, and by the way, if they are in LinkedIn, that's super valuable. They may be posting articles. They may be doing all kinds of things, which is great content for you. And if you show them how this can supplement what they're doing, you're basically building their brand in the industry. So if you're at that level, go to your bosses and say, hey, I know you're in LinkedIn. Would you like some help building your brand and getting a lot more credibility? And I don't know anybody that's ever said, you want to help me build my career so I can make more money and get a better job? No. So it's one of the best things you can do is to help somebody build their reputation. The member section is a kind of an experiment. This first section is a news and event section, which at first glance looks like the home page. The difference is it's longer articles. Also, it gives us a place to push events and conferences and things we want people to know about. So that's pretty simple. And also, I've been posting links to articles, which is great. You can curate content without having to create it. All you have to do is just read stuff. And I found this article from NASA, and I thought, wow, that's cool. So all I had to do was type in the article, write 1 sentence about it, put in a picture, which I created, and I was done. So you can create a ton of content that way, just curating content. You could literally do this almost just by curating content. And if you got a lot of subject matter experts in your business and they're writing articles, well, you're done. Just go to LinkedIn. One of our content experts has over 300 articles in LinkedIn, and at 1 a week, that's 3 years worth of content. And they, by the way, so I'm not bragging on Wix, because it's not a fancy website, right? And we will probably be upgrading it with some agency help when we get a little bigger. But Wix has all the tools you need. So if you're a small business or a medium-sized business and you just want to do this fast and quick, Wix has all the tools you need to do it and make it work. And then once I get it right, then I'll sit down with some good web developers and say, okay, how can you make this better? This is the network site. That's what we're calling it because people network a lot in this industry. This industry is resilience, and sustainability professionals, which you probably never heard of, but it's an expanding, growing profession, and ISRC is right in the middle of it, which is sort of exciting. But they network a lot, and they network on LinkedIn. With these tools, we built a LinkedIn-like network site where they can do that inside this group, and the value of that is LinkedIn is expensive. If you're doing a lot of networking on LinkedIn, you know, they really get you on the emails. You know, it's like, what, $40 to get 3 emails or whatever it is. It's kind of ridiculous. But this is a much smaller group, so we can enable and support networking a lot cheaper, a lot better. So we think it'll work. We also have some cool tools so I can give people badges and sign them roles and things, which comes back to the issue of how do you herd the cats. It's pretty cool. It even has a profile page there. But the badges are nice because I'm using those to define the roles and expectations for all these cats I have to herd. So some of these are already built in, like author, admin, member stuff, but you can also create your own. I created one called Pro Content Creator. I also have one called Thought Leader. So when I give a thought leader a badge that says Thought Leader, suddenly goes, oh my God, I'm a real thought leader. You know, it's like, you got to stroke their egos. I mean, they're all got egos, right? So just remember, it's a good way to make it work. At the end of the day, it's really, if you're going to build one of these things, you got to build a team to run it and create it. So whether you do that as a business, you think it's a good idea, you get buy-in, you can do it, start on a small scale. If you're an agency, you can do it on a much bigger scale. And if you need some extra media volunteers, just to let you know, in Texas, all the high schools are integrating video production finally into their CTE programs. They're trying to, and some of them are doing pretty good. So literally, when they get out of high school, you might be able to grab one or two good video people. You only need one to really help you out, but you get a couple and it's easier on them. And then we have the member forum, which is simply a place where people can go ask questions of the subject matter experts. And then we have the pro video section, which is where we do longer form content. So television shows, workshops, webinars, conference panels, things like this, keynote presentations. Anytime you have an opportunity to grab this content, you got a place to put it. This is in the top navigation only because it's our main landing page that goes for donations. That's why it's there. And then here's the membership. So this is kind of interesting. Wix supported membership, so we're testing it out. You can do free. The whole thing can be free. You can just have one membership, or you can have multiple memberships. The value of having a membership is you get them to fill out their name and you got their contact information, and you can do that for free. You can also offer it up. So because we're a nonprofit, we thought, well, it's a good way for somebody to make a donation. So the free membership includes the blogs, the free videos, the news and events section. The $100 a year membership includes the networks and the forums, and the $200 a year includes pro video. And again, because we have professionals as a target market, I mean, they throw money at anything that they think will help them. You know, they have plenty of money to spend. So I'm going to show you a little bit of our content, our video content, and I'm going to try to illustrate how easy this is to do. All right. So I have to use this pad without messing up the system. Aaron's going to get mad if I mess this up. This is, I told him to turn the volume down because you don't need to hear it. I just need to talk about it. So
I want to start
this is a two-camera shoot
how
that
you
we
got
shot
into this
in Baton Rouge in
what
a rented
happened to bring
apartment.
you
It was a
into
corporate
disaster
apartment that was
recovery?
furnished. So it's a kind of standard journalistic thing. You
lived
see a
and
lot of
worked in
these, like in
Europe
60 Minutes,
in
they go in
the
someplace and they put,
90s,
you know,
and
the
I worked
reporter
at
here and
NATO. I was
the
working
interviewee
on,
here,
I first
put
wrote
a
my
camera on each one, mic them, and just
master's
record it and then
thesis
take it
on
back
the
and edit
rapid
it together.
reaction
It's very easy to do. Two cameras,
facility
two
that
mics,
the EU was
two
trying to
lights,
set up
and
to
you're done.
respond to the Balkan War.
Uh,
And as part
Any
of that,
high school
I got
student that's taken a
involved
video
with
production course can do that.
reconstruction efforts. And
This next
what
one
happened with
is running. Okay. So this one is a Zoom interview. I did this one with David Baxter.
Hi, this is
He's one of our
Bruce
subject
May.
matter
I'm the
experts.
Chief Content Officer for the
I'm not sure it's
ISRC,
going
and
to
I have
show.
David
I don't think
Baxter
the clip
with me
runs long
today.
enough, but
He
when you do
is
two
a
people, you have room
procurement
above and below it. So you,
consultant and
well, there it is.
expert
You
in
put the logo and you
PPPs,
can put their name or title
and
underneath it.
he
I love that
is also
format.
the Senior
You
Advisor to the
literally, I
International
record these
Sustainable Resilience
in
Center.
my home office.
So he's a colleague of
I
mine.
just turn on the computer
Welcome,
and
David.
boom,
I know
we
that
record
you've
them.
just come
I do
back
about a
from
20
the
or 30-minute
Istanbul
interview, and then we edit
PPP
out
Center of
clips.
Excellence annual conference.
Use a high def.
I was looking at the takeaways from that event, and
$40 a piece.
based on what I was
give them
reading,
away
I
to people
assume
who want
that
to
you
interview.
are a believer in the future
Very
of
easy to do, very
PPPs.
simple to do, and
Would you-
fantastic.
Thank you,
It's
Bruce,
literally probably
for
the fastest way
inviting
to
me.
create
Yes,
content
you
there
know,
is. 'Cause
with
it's
the
live,
current
you do it, you're
pandemic
done.
and
20
also
minutes,
with
I got 3 or
global
4 video
change
clips.
or climate change
If I can just
events
get
that are
enough people to
occurring,
sit still, I can
PPPs have been
produce
placed
content
under
all day long.
considerable stress.
This one is, let's see what it is. Oh, is it playing? Let me hit play. Okay, so this is one we did with Justin Ernworth. He's the CEO of the
moved into
Water
the White House counsel's office,
Institute
where
of
I
Golf.
was very
This
involved
is
in
their
litigation
building in
around the
Baton
Deepwater
Rouge.
Horizon oil spill.
Huge
And
building
then when
right
the
on the
Restore
Mississippi
Act was
River.
passed in 2012,
So that's
it called
David
for a
Dodd.
new
He's the
federal
CEO,
agency
and this
to
is
be
actually
created
from his
in the Gulf of
television
Mexico.
show, which we
and I volunteered
produced,
to
and
move
it's
from
just an
Washington
online
to
television show.
Louisiana to set
although
up
we had
the
it on
Gulf
Channel
Coast
21.
Ecosystem
But
Restoration Council.
I did
which
this
is the
with
group charged
3
with,
cameras,
administering the about $7
2
billion in
mics,
civil and
2
administrative
lights.
penalties.
So you have a
I did
camera on
that
each
for 4
person, and then
years.
you have a third
And
camera you
while
set
I
up
was
for
doing
wide
that,
shot. You
and that
set
was
up the
work,
cameras,
going from
turn on the
South
lights,
Texas
make
all the
sure
way to
everything's
Florida
focused,
Keys,
and turn it on, and just
thinking
sit there
about how to
like this and just wait
prioritize
till
the
they're done.
best
Then we're done, and you
ecosystem
turn it off.
restoration, economic
Again,
development,
once you know
and
how to do it, it's pretty
resilience
easy to
projects.
do.
One of the things that I
We
was really
had a
impressed by
30-minute
was the
television
need
show out of
for
this,
really
and
strong
what I'm doing
applied
now
science. There's
is
great
editing
science
clips
all
out of it,
across
and
the
this
Gulf,
is
all
one
over
of
the
clips.
world, but the ability.
It's a little tricky here. All right, and this one is, I'm just repeated it, sorry, let me go to the next one. Okay, this one is the New Orleans Trade Center. This is the intro
Sustainable
for the TV
Resilience
show, Sustainable
with David
Resilience with
Dodd.
David Dodd. And this is an
Let me key
interview,
on one thing you said.
in
Small
their
businesses.
offices,
You again were
and
a
this was a
regional
little
advocate,
simpler. We just
covering
had
the
2
South Central
cameras,
United
very
States for
clean
the
shots,
SBA,
really good lighting.
advocacy. And people
and
think about
just go back
trade,
and
generally
forth.
think about
And
huge
so you
companies
do all that
that
in
are
the edit
exporting
suite,
millions of
and
tons
it's
of
pretty
goods
simple,
around the
you know.
world.
Just
But
go
small
back and forth.
businesses have
You got a
real
great interview.
opportunity in trade.
So
Can
the
you tell us a little bit
challenge
about what's
with
available?
this is really less about
Man-made
shooting
and
the
natural
video.
disasters are taking an increasing toll
This,
on the world's
but this is a
population,
promo we did. I just
affecting
stuck this in
virtually
here because I
everyone
wanted
in
to
every
make the
country
point
around the world.
that, yeah, you still get to throw
Floods,
ads in the
hurricanes,
content, right?
wildfires,
Just make sure the ad is not an advertorial content.
population
If you mix them
displacement,
together, you got an
and added to
infomercial.
that list, the
Don't
latest
do that.
man-made form of
Make sure it's
disaster,
separate and
cyber
clean.
attacks.
So that'd be my
Disaster
guess. Okay. The real challenge is with the production side. I'm going to start talking about how you put on that producer hat and how you produce video content as a producer. If you're just doing blogs and articles, you don't have to worry about it so much. But since we do video, I thought I'd give you a little bit of information about that. And I'm not sure where I am on time, but there was a clock around here. All right, so this is the indie film site. Oh, this is just another video. This is highly produced video. This
Each
is
year,
shot
the
in
Indie
our
Film Foundation
studios
offers a
with
summer
when I
film
still have my
class
beard.
for high school students,
So we had
college
good
students,
lighting,
and
great
adults
cameras.
working in the industry.
It was
all come
scripted.
together to
We
produce,
put everything
film,
on
and edit
teleprompters.
their own
We did
short
multiple
film.
takes. We did it
Students
till we
ages
got it
16 to
right, and then we
60
did it
work
a
as a
couple more
team,
times
learning
to
how
make
real
sure it was
films are
absolutely
made.
perfect. Then
You'll
we
be
take
part
it
of
in
a
the
real
edit
production
suite.
team,
We
helping to
edit
write,
everything. We do
produce,
cutaways, which means
direct,
you'll see in a minute
and edit
all the
our
video
summer
that we
student
throw on
film.
top.
You
We're
will
doing
learn every
voiceovers the
aspect
whole
of
time.
filmmaking, from writing to the final cut. You will learn how to write
so on and
scenes,
so forth.
log shots,
Oh,
direct
there
actors,
I am.
and bring
Thank
it all together in the edit suite.
So
You'll
there's
also
some
get to
cutaways.
come
That's
to the
one of
premiere of
our
your
studios
film,
where we
which
teach
we
the
will
film
hold
school.
in a local theater
But anyway,
as part of your
enough of that.
annual film festival.
Let's see.
And you'll be
Okay, so the question becomes: so you create this thing, You build the site, you've got the content, what's the marketing strategy? For us, it's pretty simple because we're dealing with professionals primarily in LinkedIn. So we're just creating the content with thought leaders in resilience. We're promoting that content through LinkedIn with the help of the thought leaders themselves, promoting that content, putting posts out about it. One kind of cool trick, anytime you interview somebody that's not inside the organization, you just send them the link and let them post it in LinkedIn, or if it's Facebook, if you're in Facebook, wherever you are. And I promise you they'll do it because they're super excited. It's like us getting up here to speak today. We're all going to go to our Facebook and or LinkedIn and post and go, hey, here we are. So that all helps. And then, of course, if you can leverage strategic partnerships, that can be huge. These numbers I'm not particularly proud of, but I've been doing this for about 3 or 4 weeks in LinkedIn myself. Those are not huge numbers in my mind, but my network is only I got about 3,000 followers in LinkedIn, and they're mostly film and marketing people. They're not resilience people. So I was shocked that I was even getting this many numbers. I was hoping I would have data today from our experts, but I found out they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I'm having another training session and lighting a fire underneath them. I expect their numbers will be off the chart. David Dodd has 17,000 followers and David Baxter has over 25,000. So if you have somebody like that, really, there's really no excuse for not doing this, because it's an opportunity to take the lead in that industry. And there will be professional journals, like in oil and gas industry, if anybody's in that, they're professional journals. There's media out there, but there's almost nobody doing this and doing it with video. So I think the opportunity is huge for somebody to take it over. If you're really ambitious and you can go after a big company, there's an opportunity, but also you can go after smaller companies and do it on a smaller scale. You will not ever win the battle and compete with the YouTubers. You know that, right? Those millions of followers. Out of curiosity, I just went and looked at who this were the top 6. I don't know if you know this. So Mr. Beast is number 6 with 51 million followers. Dude Perfect, I don't know who these guys are. What is it? 54 million. And this one I love, Vlad and Nikki with 61 million. Been pretty amazing. You can't beat the kids. The kids, there's no way, right? Guess what? Third place and second place are also kids. And they're like 4 years old. What's that? 72 million followers. And in first place, we've got Pew. Anybody know this guy? You do? Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes me feel better. Okay. 108 million followers. Well, you don't need 108 million followers to make this work. Okay. So because we're in a professional area, and there's, you need 10 to 100,000 is a niche audience. So, and if you get 20% of that, I consider that a win. I think we're going to do better. If you're the furrow, you could get up to 1 million, right? So it is possible with the bigger brands. But this is also a win with even smaller niche audiences. Also, what's interesting, it gives you a great way to capture customers' prospects, right? Because they're going to be in that audience, and that's really hard to do, or not the prospects, capture their customers. Stealing away customers, depending on the brand loyalty, it can be a real challenge. Well, this is a cool way to do it. You can also be in a B2C, B2B, or a nonprofit government. You can be in any of those things. If you're an agency and you have clients there, think about it. If you're a business, it could apply wherever you are. So let's think about that. B2C is a little bit limited because you got a buying cycle to deal with. Cars are what, couple years, houses, 8 years. The real question, is it content rich? Do you have subject matter experts you can interview? If it is, you're good to go. So here's some examples. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know that they're doing this. I know Home Depot has experimented with doing video just in their website. That's another way. Just go ahead and integrate it into your website. Don't make a big deal about it. But the same practices, same approaches will work. B2B, I think it's a huge opportunity, certainly for big regional or national brands. You've got big, long, repetitive buying cycles. So there's always buying and usually lots of money, high dollar transactions. It's also content rich because when you're dealing with B2B, you're selling to a industry that's full of expertise. And every industry has the same challenge today. Everybody is drowning in new technology and new best practices because they change because of the new technology. How do you get grounded in what? I don't care what your industry is. We're doing that here today. That's why you're out here trying to get grounded in what's going on. What do you need to know? What's important? What's not important? What are the best practices? Well, everybody in every industry is struggling with that. That's why I believe this is such a great opportunity and such an easy win if you capture that ground and say, we're going to be a trusted media brand. You also have multiple audiences in B2B, which include professionals, which are a great source for subject matter experts, thought leaders, and strategic partners. Nonprofit, very similar situation. High dollar transactions, at least for the big donors. And it's not only content rich, it's also story rich. Anybody know a nonprofit that's not serving humanity? They all are, right? They're all helping save us, right? Great stories there. I can't imagine a nonprofit not wanting to do this. I'm a co-founder of one, and I'm doing it because I want to do it. And I'm on the board of the other one, and we're doing it as well. You also have multiple audiences, but you've got a couple of extra groups. You have donors, which you could mostly advertise to for donations. And then you have the recipients. And then, of course, you have all the other ones as well. So bottom line, fantastic opportunity for nonprofits, great opportunity in the B2B for regional or national brands, and B2C if it makes sense, and at least do it on a small scale. It's a perfect way to nurture leads with content. Okay. I'm going to talk about the content creation and some of the challenges that you'll face if you want to do this. There's 3 ways to create content. You know that. Create it yourself, collaborate with media professionals, or curate content. Curation is the easiest one. I already talked about that. Also, a big question here is how often do you have to do it? I think you answer that question by defining, how often do you want to send out a newsletter? And that's going to be kind of limited to a range, either weekly or monthly, or I guess you could do it twice a year, but that's kind of the range. And you want 2 or 3 pieces of content per newsletter. So there's your answer. That's how much content you need. And I don't think it's that much content. I put this little note here to remind myself, Barron's is financial news. You may have heard of it. I subscribe to it. It's a real media company, but look at how much stuff they do. They have 6 newsletters every day. And they all come in my email and I look at all of them. Some of them just have 1 article, some have 2 or video. There's one that has a list of nothing but 25 links. And you just click on a topic and go to that topic. And that's fantastic stuff. So you're not attempting to be anywhere near at that level. That's a high-end production level. You're way below that. So it's not that hard to do. So here I'm going to focus on just video and television-like content. I'm going to discuss all these issues because these are the main challenges you'll have if you try to do this. So subject matter experts, how do you find them? And what do you want to find in a subject matter expert? You want them to be knowledgeable, engaging, personable. You want them to communicate clearly. That's probably most essential because you'll get some very nerdy engineers and they don't have a personality, and that's fine as long as they communicate clearly when they're answering a question and they're articulate. As a host, you obviously want all that, but you also want somebody that's a good listener, somebody who's a good conversationalist, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's a conversation, and a good interview. That's trainable. In fact, those last 3, I can train anybody to be a host if they just want to be. That's not a hard thing to do. But other things you want to look for in a host. So are they comfortable on camera? Again, you just get comfortable. Just like I'm pretty comfortable speaking. I've done a lot of it. You get comfortable in front of a camera. Now that we're all Zooming, everybody's comfortable in front of a Zoom camera. Do they manage guests well? You can teach them how to do that. Do you want them to ask aggressive questions, like an investigative journalist? Do they have to have that skill? Absolutely not. You don't want that skill because that's not what this is. This is not a journalist. This is It's like documentary filmmaking. You want a host that's going to pick the brain of the subject matter expert and get that person to share all that knowledge with your audience. And you do that by nurturing it out of them, right? So you want thoughtful questions. You want to be able to frame up the conversation, provide context, explain what's going on, and you can sum up the takeaways. And you can add your own expertise too if you want. But anyway, those are things you want to look for in a host. I threw this in because it's kind of a neat example. We did a show a few years ago. It was called Innovations in Technology. We're here based in Houston. We were going to do it for the two big technology areas, which is the energy business and the medical. And so we were going to OTC, Offshore Technology Conference. We did it 3 years in a row, and Pierpont manages that whole show. The first year we just got in, and they said, they approved us. We went in as press, and they said, "Who do you want to talk to?" And I said, "Who do you want me to talk to?" And they said, "Well, okay, well, let's figure it out." Smartest question I ever asked. I knew what would happen. They took me to the biggest vendors they had. I was interviewing on the main floor companies like Schlumberger and the biggest dogs there, talking directly to their marketing directors. It was a lot of fun. Second year, I said, "Well, that was cool, but I'd really like to interview one of the keynote speakers." And they came back and they said, "Well, would you mind interviewing the chairman?" I said, "The chairman of OTC?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah." So that year it was Wafik Baydon. I believe I pronounced that correctly. If you know him, I apologize if I got it wrong. His full-time job is President CEO of Total Energy, which is the Kuwaiti oil and gas company. His boss is the king of Kuwait. But the chairman does 2 years of media training with Pierpont, and then he gets to be chairman for 2 years. The reason I brought this up was not to brag about it, but to tell you it was one of the best interviews I ever did. And I applied the best practices for doing an interview, and they're very simple. Because I'm not an investigative journalist, I'm interviewing this guy, and I wanted him to share everything he knows as much as possible. So he came down, we met, and we shot in a quiet place, so there wasn't a lot of noise. And he said, "Well, how long is this going to be?" I said, "Well, 5, maybe 10 minutes. And he said, "Well, what are you going to ask me?" And I said, "Well, what do you want to talk about?" And he looked at me, and I explained. I said, "I'm not an investigative journalist. I'm here to pick your brain for the benefit of our audience. I want you to share what you know." Big smile. He said, "Oh, okay." And he gave me 4 things he wanted to talk about. I wrote them down. I said, "Okay." That was all my prep. I was done. So I said, "There's one other thing I'd like to ask you about." And he said, "What's that?" I was a little nervous. I said, because this was 6 years ago, I said, "I want to ask you about clean energy if you have anything to say about it." Bigger smile. "I'd love to talk about clean energy." I said, "Okay, great." So that 5-minute interview turned into a 25-minute interview. He talked about everything, answered in detail the 4 topics that he gave me. I just teed him up with softballs. And then I asked him about clean energy, and he was very excited about everything his company was doing and how they were encouraging it in the industry. So being a host is just that simple and that easy. And it's totally trainable. The trick is not to do all the talking. Just ask good questions and listen. And then if it's appropriate, ask a follow-up question based on what they said. That's it. That's it. You can train anybody that way. All right. So what to look for: experience on panels, experience as a moderator, experience as an MC, being interviewed by media, especially on radio or TV. Media training is a big bonus. I always look for writing. It's not required, but a lot of subject matter experts do write. They'll do blogs or articles. And if they do books, yeah, they're perfect, right? So experience as a host is good too. And where do you find them? At industry conferences. Whatever your industry is, that's where you go recruit everybody. And you can get any subject matter expert to do an interview. Go up to everybody that's up on the stage after they get off and say, "Can I interview you on my media show, my podcast, or whatever?" I guarantee you nobody will turn you down. Everybody's looking for opportunities. And the biggest, most successful people, if they have books, they're the hungriest of all because they're starving to get on TV, but they'll do anything. I've interviewed a lot of people that have written books. All right, so style and format of the show. This all depends on the nature of your industry. Is it serious? Is it jovial? Do you want to focus more on facts or opinions? There's no wrong answer here. This is a creative process. You just want to picture in your mind, what is this show going to look like? How's it going to work, right? If you watch TV, you always see the premiere, and they spend a lot of time making that first show because they don't know what it's going to look like. And once they got the model down, then they can just do them real quick. So that's part of the process. Technical issues about 1, 2, or 3 cameras on location or in studio. Just figure out what you want to do and keep it as simple as necessary. Other issues about format, whether you do 1 or 2 hosts, how long is the show going to be, type of content, interviews, dialogue, presentations, cutaways, what kind of video can you get to insert if you want to get that fancy with it. Anytime you got video, it adds value, products, places, events. And again, it doesn't matter. You can change it up. You can do a show and you go, I don't like it. You just keep what works and change the rest, and give yourself permission to manipulate it. And after you've done 2 or 3, it'll sort of work itself out. And a lot of that depends on the hosts and their talent, experience, and all kinds of variables that you don't have control over. But once you got that worked out, you want to make sure you know what, you got to find the content, right? And there's 3 things to look for. 1, you want to educate, inform and educate about standards and best practices, compliance. You also want to entertain, and you can do that with new products, new technologies, new innovations, which are always fun and exciting. And you want to explore and discover different approaches and theories, whatever's going on in your industry, new ideas. That's the way I think about it when I'm looking for content opportunities from subject matter experts, right? Branding and packaging, your marketing people, you know how to do this. You want to do actually the show itself, but also the little sub pieces, So we've actually got content from my interviews, which are just Resilience News Watch. We've got David's TV show. You can have all kinds of special features. So brand everything. Create a header, obviously, for the video intros. If you're going to do a set, you need to get that figured out. And then distribution. Where's that going to go? YouTube, blogs, podcasts, website. And, what are your key topics? You want to know what those are. So just to wrap up now, it's easier to do than you think. And that's sort of what I'm preaching. And everybody's afraid to jump in because it seems like it's so much work. Yeah, it's going to be a big project. So you're going to have to get several employees committed to working on it. If you're an agency, you're going to have to sell it to a client and then figure out between you and the client business who's going to do what. But the opportunity is so huge. If you're really trying to make a big win, go sell it to the CEO or the president of the company and go, look, we've got a way to really ramp up your outcomes, your marketing outcomes. And let me explain how it works. And you got the presentation on the flash drive. So try it out, test it out. If it works and you get a client, let me know. I'd be curious to see. Be sure to connect the dots back to your marketing system, right? So you get all your free books. And with that, I'm done, unless you have any questions. So.
Questions. If anyone, I've got a handful here, but has anyone else got any before I launch into mine? No? Mine might spark some, so I'll kick off, Bruce. I had a question around, great idea around, if you're B2B and you're at events like this and you've got all these thought leaders who are literally, sitting on your table and they're up on stage and the like. In terms of equipment, how do you do that in a way that isn't going to break the bank, but is still going to come across slick? Because we've all seen and heard dodgy audio and video.
Yeah. So I would consult with a video production company and get them to help set you up with what you need and get the production quality you want. It's not expensive. The cameras have gotten so good. I bought a little Sony camera for a road trip, like $500. I brought it back to the studio, and Gary went, "This is high def video," and it was gorgeous, right? So make sure the focus is right, make sure the sound is right, and if you're having issues with it, again, the best thing is go bring in on a consulting basis a video production professional and just say, "Tell me what I'm doing wrong, teach me how to do it right, set me up with the right equipment," and they will know it's not going to cost a lot of money. I mean, right here, you've got everything perfect lighting. I'm sure the video's gonna look great. I'm sure the audio's good. By the way, is Aaron in the room? No. Anyway, you can tell him later that, anyway, you could do this. Or he could do it, he could turn this into more of a, media portal with content available all year long and curate that very best content. What you would do is get an editor to go through and edit out the most valuable little pieces and tidbits. That's what I would start with. And put that together on your site. But once you start making content and turning this into content permanently, what people won't do is sit here and watch an hour and a half presentation, an hour-long presentation. They just won't. But anyway, I think there's huge opportunities for you guys to polish this off along in those directions.
Yep. Follow-up question on that. So you talked a little bit about, or you just mentioned it then as well. No one's going to watch a 90-minute presentation, but there's going to be, snippets, nuggets, whether they're 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. Is it the same in terms of that post-production, the editing and cutting it all together? Are we using that same person, or is that a different skill set to pull that together?
So when I edit clips out, I've got all of my interviews I do, which are about 20, 25 minutes long, and David's shows, which are about the same length. They were in Geneva a couple of weeks ago. They did an hour and a half long presentation, and it was full of nuggets. I can't wait to get my hands on it. So it basically just put it in the editor, and you put the start and stop times. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. So what I do that, and then take it into my partner and say, here are the start and stop times. And you get it right on the dot so you don't waste his time. Or if you're paying somebody to do it, they're not charging you for a lot of time. So I get it down to the second, and he can knock it out real fast. And then you just put a header on the front, whatever you brand it, keep that short, 5-6 seconds is long enough. You can do that all day long. And because you have all these presentations now being recorded, I mean, that's a gold mine of content. I would definitely think seriously about sitting down and editing all that stuff and making it permanently available for, 6 months or so, kind of roll it across. Because I'd love to see what people in other cities are thinking the same.
Yep.
That would be really interesting to me as a marketing person.
Yes, thank you.
So you might have already said this, but what's your go-to video production platform?
For delivering video?
For editing, yeah.
Oh, for editing. Okay, so for editing, there's only really two. There's Adobe Premiere Pro, and then there's Avid. Avid is the old big dog in the room, and it's really good, but it's a little bit harder to learn. Most everybody's using Premiere Pro.
Thank you.
Thank you. No other questions? If not, I'm actually curious. Bruce, stay up on stage. We do have a few minutes, and I want to pick your brain. I'm curious if, people in the room, could I get a show of hands? Actually, I don't need that. Can I get a show of hands? Who here does any type of content creation at the moment, or is looking to do content creation? Okay, cool. There's a few here. So a lot of the things that Bruce has spoken about in terms of, finding those thought leaders and going to conferences and the like, I'm guessing that's probably struck a chord with you. It'd be great if Bruce could give you maybe even some ideas, because let's say they've got the equipment and they get to these conferences and then they come up and they speak to people like you. What are some questions that they can potentially ask, or some ways that they can engage to get them going? Would you mind if we went around the room and just got them to talk about what their business is, types of people they speak to, and then you can spark that?
Right. So here's a little secret. Pick somebody. Somebody.
Sorry, you put your hand up, so I'm going to single you out.
Oh, yeah. I run a food blog, so basically it's content marketing, but my end goal isn't a product. It's just I get paid with ads. So when people visit my site, they get the recipe, I get income from that.
What's the content?
So it's recipes.
Recipes?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. how do you manage to monetize that? That's really cool.
Ads. So
Yeah.
we have like, I don't know if you've heard of Cafe Media or AdThrive. They're
Oh,
just
yeah.
digital ad companies.
Right, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so that's how.
Yeah, sure, yeah, I've talked to some of those guys. That's really interesting. So you're actually creating recipes?
Yeah, I create the recipes, and I do have a videographer who comes, takes the video of me doing.
Okay.
You know,
So you're
recipe.
paying him, he's a professional.
Yes.
So you don't have to worry about that. You get quality video.
Yes.
So you got that problem solved.
Yeah.
That's the easy way to do it. You don't even have to know anything about it.
Yeah, and I do. I do agree that that's how I also try to gather email addresses and do email marketing with the content marketing, like you're
Yeah,
saying.
so you're using automated marketing tools?
Yes.
What do you use? I'm curious.
I use MailerLite to gain email addresses,
Yeah.
and then when
We
I
use Keep, used to be Infusionsoft.
okay.
Whatever tools, you need something to do that with. So, what kind of set do you have?
In terms of the video production,
Yeah, you're just doing are you doing cooking like shows?
yeah, it's like tasty style videos. I don't know if you've seen like those quick cooking videos.
Yeah. So is it in your
It's
kitchen?
no, it's like in my living room where there's natural light, so
Yeah,
he'll just
you
come
made
in.
a set and you're, okay. You
Yeah,
made a
but-
set. That's what I was talking about. That's one of those things you have to figure out. How am I going to do this? I'm going to make it look good. So you kind of polish that off. Would
Yeah.
it help if you got the lighting right?
Yeah,
So it looks good?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are important things. So your question was, how do I interview somebody?
Yeah, so if she was to go to an event where there's chefs or people people well known in the industry, what sort of questions
Yeah,
could she ask?
specifically for that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was following that process, so it's just a conversation, just engaging, just ask whatever question pops in your head. Because you are expert already, you know the kinds of things that you want to talk to them about, so it will become kind of mundane, routine after a while. You ask them the same kind of questions. Open-ended questions are much better. You don't ever want to ask a question like, how's this going? They say, good. Okay, well, can you tell us about it? Yes.
yeah,
I had one interview on video, and I had to just throw it away, because the whole interview was like that. Even open-ended questions, I got single-word answers to. But, it's like, here's the real secret, right? You're interested in the topic, right? You are somewhat expert in the topic. I mean, you make your own recipes, right?
Yeah.
So anybody else that you talk to, it's like you're talking among professionals. Oh, how do you do this? Oh, how does that work? What kind of insights? I was listening to some of the questions. I love that one where they said, what surprised you during a conversation? So anytime somebody says, you can ask them, what's the most surprising thing that's happened to you lately? It's just having a conversation with somebody is very easy to do, especially when you have something in common, and you do. So just follow those trails. What I tell people when I interview them, every 10 minutes we take a break, no matter what. The first 10 minutes, I say, what do you want to talk about? We talk about it. When we take the break, I ask it all over again because we just opened up a whole bunch of rabbit trails. I literally had people in the studio for 3 hours where I took a break every 10 minutes and the rabbit trails just kept multiplying. There's no end to it. So it's just a hard conversation. But at the end of the day, if you have something in common with them, and as a professional you do, just start picking away at it, and more rabbit trails will open up and you know what to do with it.
thank you.
Thank you. Just behind you there. Thank you.
Hi there. So the three of us at our table all work at a cable company, but we focus primarily on internet, and we also have some phone products as well, like landline phone. So I guess your speech actually kind of sparked an idea about doing a testimonial video that we could showcase in our email marketing efforts and on our website. Would you say that should be scripted, or is that more of something that you should just kind of have an interview and ask what type of question? Because the only question I can think of is like, how's your experience with our service? And that could be obviously, not either answered in long form or short form.
Right. So you're talking about customers, end users?
Yes. So like interviewing current
People like-
customers that, would give a positive review or testimonial.
I think that's great. So, I don't think marketers listen to the customers as much as we should. I don't think the senior executives listen as much as they should. And testimonials is a great way to do it. Somebody earlier mentioned the fact every entrepreneur talks to all their customers all the time. I remember, I used to live on Fondren and Sam, Walmart, what's his name? Huh? Walt, Sam Walt. He built the first Sam store right down the street from me, and we shopped there all the time. We bought stuff we didn't need, like ridiculous stuff, because we were just excited that we could do that. But he was in there every time I went in. He was all you go talking. He was in that store picking the brain of everybody all the time. He was talking to his employees, he was talking to his customers, asking them lots of questions. That's the right way to do it. If you want to be a stellar enterprise business. So marketing, you have a great opportunity to do it for your senior executives and then say, hey, by the way, this is what the customers are saying. And you can show them the good, bad, and the ugly, But yeah, at the end of the day, just the interview style is the best. How do you, just cover all the bases, how is the experience? Well, they don't think in terms of customer experience, even though they're living it. You think of it, right? So just go through the customer experience, and it's going to be a little different depending on the nature of the business, but whatever those issues are, hit all those issues. And then keep your, I just love this question. Is anything unusual happening to you, right? I'll give you an example in your industry. I called a cable repair guy out one day. And I don't know if you're Suddenlink or not, but this was Suddenlink. And I was going to stop using the service because I was so unhappy with it. And it was so expensive. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, it's getting way too expensive. He said, well, we got antenna TV. I didn't know that. And you probably don't want to promote that, but that was a huge experience for me because he showed me how to do it. I said, that's cool. I've been wanting to know how to do it. Ended up, I didn't want to get rid of it. I have both, right? So those little surprise things, or you never know, keep your ear free for that. Did that help?
Oh yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Great. I think that's it. Thanks so much, Bruce. Thank